it is for you guys. Enjoy.
Welcome to We the Thunder. It's Shooter with my guy, Thomas Schooley.
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Thomas Schooley. How can we expect that?
Sounds creepy.
All right, we're in a better mood this week for our little chat about the Lightning, and we even got a guest. We're going back to our roots. If you haven't noticed this season, when I started this show, the idea was I'm a fan and to bring other fans on. In fact, that's how I met Thomas Schooley.
I was just about to say that's how I got on this.
Now he's a host. Look at that. He gets paid well for this in rum cake. So we had Sarah on last week. We had John on. So we've had some super fans. I think this is going to be a good one. This is I consider this this account as a Lightning historian, if you will. So if you're on Twitter, the X, whatever the hell they call it next, you should follow this account. So let's bring on Nolan, and his account on X is @ReviewLightning, and always posting about the Lightning, different things. I know as we were leading up to the season, you were kind of going through alphabetically every Lightning player that ever played on the team, which I don't even know how you did that, but you did. So I guess the first thing I got to ask you is, what is your most favorite Lightning player, but just like a random player? And I'm not talking about like, Marty St. Louis or Stamkos or like Javier. I want like the Evgeny Artukin type of player. Do you have a favorite along those lines?
A lot of the guys that I was really obsessed with for a really long time were guys that were around with the inaugural squad. I actually got hooked on the Lightning through the EA NHLPA 92. I think was the first video game that the Lightning was on. So I'm from Regina, okay? Like I live in Toronto, but Regina, there's no team. You just pick whatever team. And we play in this video game. I didn't follow hockey. Lightning sounded cool. I liked the colors. I ended up following that team. So I learned the players through the video games. So I got obsessed about like Rob DeMaio and Chris Kontos and Brian Bradley. I was a freak for Brian Bradley. I love that. I love that picture in the back. Roman Hammerlick, and like even guys that were there for only a heartbeat, like Basil McRae and Doug Crossman. Like I thought
that was on Sega, wasn't it?
Yeah. My buddy's Sega Genesis played in his basement all the time. We got obsessive about it. We started keeping spreadsheets on his computer about our scoring, and like we each ended up picking a team, and they were like, "Oh, you'll pick the Ducks next year. You're only picking the Lightning because they're the new team." I'm like, "Shut up!" I'm ride or die. All these years later, here I am. So I've never even been to Tampa. I've been to a lot of Lightning games, but they've always been up here in Canada.
Gotcha. Well, you let us know when you come down. You're missing a heck of an experience, especially if you like those colors and that name. And I don't know if you know this, there's actual Lightning in the arena. So you just reminded me. So I probably told this story on this show before, maybe 4 or 5 times, but I'm going to tell it again. So I didn't live here either when the Lightning were born, so I missed out on all those, fun days at the fairgrounds and the Thunderdome and all that stuff. But I was reminded of this earlier this week, and because you just talking now, you reminded me that I wanted to bring it up. So I'm going to share my screen for a second. My first ever intro to the Tampa Bay Lightning was a person on my bus in middle school had the old school, the original Tampa Bay Lightning starter pullover jacket. And last week, our friends at the Tampa Bay Sports Store, which just steals all my money out of my paycheck pretty much every month, or at least a good portion of it. As you can see the price tag on this jacket that I did not buy, by the way. But they came out with a brand new Lightning starter jackets. That brought me back to when I first discovered the Lightning, because I was like, I didn't really know what the Lightning were. And I wasn't even really a fan until I moved down here. But that's funny that you don't live here, but you just kind of saw the logo and the name and the colors. That's cool. That's going to be my team. So kudos for you, and kudos to the Lightning and Tampa Bay Sports Store for partnering up with Starter to steal more of our money with sweet merchandise. I heard
it would have been a little bit better had they went old school with the, logo from back then.
Don't hold your breath for that, because I'm sure it's coming soon. The black version.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to bring back the old starter jacket. I do think they're pretty cool. It looks a little heavy for Tampa, but doesn't mean I don't want it. So anybody's looking for a Christmas gift, they can use my discount, and that's fine.
There you go. Anyway, I thought somebody had mentioned on Twitter that there was a blue version of this, but I don't see the option on here. So anyway, enough about merchandise. Review Lightning. So yeah, go check it out. For anyone that's listening on the podcast, we'll put in the show notes so you can go check out this account if you haven't already. It looks like some folks in the chat are already familiar. You know I'm right. He's all over Bolt's Twitter. But yeah, great account. I just love hearing a lot about like Lightning kind of history and stuff like that. So when you were going through just the names of everyone that's ever been in the franchise, for me, like some of those were new players for me. And some of them were players on the team that I used to follow before I moved down here. What else do you tweet about? What kind of stuff do you like to get out there? And how did this start? How old is this account?
This account, I think I started at the beginning of last season, but I didn't really use it all year. I used to blog about the Lightning 10, 15 years ago. I had a blog of my own called Frozen Sheets Hockey that I would just try to, do screwy stuff and talk about the games and the players. And I wrote for Raw Charge for a while after that. I stepped away from it for a long time. I tried to get back into it, and I figured I should have a name that kind of just says the team, says what I'm doing. And after that, it was just kind of looking for things to talk about, looking ways to talk about old players. I started using the Getty Images resource to find pictures of all of these old players, and that's a rabbit hole like I never imagined. Like you can start looking at old players, like you can put in, Vincent LeCavalier 2002, and just look at a pile of pictures of him just from that year. You can, like, there's so many different things you can hunt for on there, and it's been a lot of fun just digging around in Lightning history and trying to find some different stories to tell.
That's also, if you ever come down here, number one, I always have an extra seat next to me, so let me know. Number two, the pictures of the past and the present around inside Amalie Arena is amazing. They have all kinds of different pictures dating back from season 1 all the way to now, all over the arena, every single level of the arena, and just in different forms and different players. So even then, it's kind of cool to see the history that way. And then they have the trophy case there at the arena that you can always visit. That's a copy of every trophy we've ever had.
I always make sure when I pass Chris Dingman's picture that's still up on the concourse that I take a picture and tweet it to him, just so he knows.
He's active. He's replied to me on Twitter.
We've had him on the show before.
He's been on the show
fantastic.
before. Yeah, he's one of our favorite Bolts all time for sure. Serena's got a really good point here that goes for you if you ever come down to Tampa, or anyone that hasn't done this yet. They restarted this last year, and myself and Sash were one of the first people that were on the tour again, but they're doing the tour of Amalie, so you can go kind of into the underground tunnels of Amalie and see some of the cool stuff. And you don't get to see everything, but they kind of tell you a lot of different stories about, not just the Lightning, but different performers and, acts that they've had at Amalie Arena. So it's definitely worth the $15 to go check out the tour if you're there early. So go check it out, people. It's got Serena's seal of approval. So let's talk about some hockey games. As I mentioned, last show was a sad show because it's the first show that we ever did where the Lightning had not scored a single goal in between shows. So things have changed. That was before.
And we did it right up to almost puck drop of the very first game of this homestand, and look what's happened.
It's amazing what can happen in a short amount of time with a team as talented as the Tampa Bay Lightning. So yeah, we had the Blackhawks right after our show, and it didn't take long for the Bolts to score a goal. Although I don't think they scored in that first period, did they?
No.
Yeah, it did take them a little bit of time to get that goal. But once they did score, things started flowing a little bit better. They had 4 goals in that game. Won 4-2. I thought they pretty much dominated most of the game. I know they were down after that first period, but Braden Point got back on the board. Victor Hedman, who we're going to talk a lot about tonight, I have a feeling. Last night's game was amazing. Got on the board, and so did Sergachev and Hagel. And the reason why I'm bringing all of these goals up is because we made predictions during that pregame show. Schooley said Sergachev, check. I said Hagel, check, even though it was an empty netter. They all count. And then Sarah, who was on, said Braden Point. So they all got on the board, and Sarah even guessed the final score correctly. So she was on fire, and so were the Bolts. The game that they were expected to win up in Chicago. I think one of the most impressive things about this game was that they did shut down Bedard, which, we were talking a lot about before the game, and that kind of carried over into Saturday. Was there any other thing? I want to jump to Saturday, but was there anything else that kind of stood out in that game against the Blackhawks for you guys last Thursday?
Corey Perry scoring against us again.
And just right space at the right time, right? Like that puck just kind of got over to him and just poked it right in.
And just that, you touched on that Sergachev, and I had picked Sergachev, and you guys kind of chuckled because that was when he was dealing with all that drama that took over Bolts Nation for a week. And it seemed like the team really embraced him after that goal. And it seemed like that really did something for him. What did he have? He had 2 assists that night, didn't he?
It's the Blackhawks. He had 1 assist. He had 2 points that game. He had 5 shots on goal.
Yeah, he was a plus 2 that game. Definitely I thought was something he needed for his mental well-being. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty well-rounded game.
Yeah, agreed. God knows they needed it, but against that level of opposition, like we should expect it. But after you're shut out 2 games in a row, you're shell-shocked. You think, God, they can't beat them. They're not going to beat them. They beat us. They beat us a week ago. But no, it was a great game. They were really solid.
Yeah, I think it came at the right time, and I think it was perfect for them to be on the road for that also, to get that road win and finish those after being shut out twice. They really didn't want to come home, being shut out again 3 straight games. It would not have been a nice game come Edmonton, but Edmonton game ended up being just as good, if not better.
Yeah. So on to Edmonton Saturday night, downtown Tampa. By the way, while you guys talk about that game, I'm going to put in the chat the link to our Twitter, because if you guess tomorrow night's score correctly, you will be put in a bucket of other people that guess tomorrow night's score correctly. And we will pick a winner for the Cigar City gift card. $25 gets you a couple beers at least. And as always, I have to make the disclaimer, this is for the tap room on Spruce, not the one at the stadium. So you have to use this as Spruce. But guess what? We're doing some watch parties after the new year. So you can bring it to the watch party and hang out with us and watch those games and spend your Cigar City money there. So I'm going to make sure I put that in the chat here. You do have to respond to the original post on Twitter. I know the Thunderbolts folks, when I post over there, that, I thought clearly saying you have to go to Twitter. They're still commenting on that post. Listen, I can't keep track of multiple different places where you guys are posting scores. It's got to be in one spot. I can barely make it to the show in time. So it's got to be on Twitter on that original post. So I'll post that. Anyway, Saturday night, McDavid comes to town. And
day game, Thunderbug's birthday.
4:00 game. It's Kids Day. I tried to get my kids to come. They didn't even want to go. But this game, the Lightning scored 6 goals. So they won 6-4 versus the Oilers, but they carried over that, like, hey, let's guard the best players on the opposing team and make sure we shut them out. I thought that was what was most impressive about this game. Draisaitl, 0 points. Connor McDavid, 0 points. That's not easy to do. So we talked about this team defensively not being that great so far this season, but seeing this trend of them shutting down the top players on the opposing team this week, I think is a good thing. Now we're getting scored on by like the third and fourth liners, but that's a whole different story. But I thought this game was a great kind of extension to that, to make it a 2-game winning streak this past weekend. And you had the Russian duo of Nikita Kucherov, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. And then Sergachev got on the board again with a goal, and he had 2 assists. So both those guys had 3 points in this game. And that Russian dynamic duo was making the Oilers dynamic duo look like amateurs here in Tampa.
Yeah, we done this a couple years ago. They used to put Braden Point on the other team's best player because he was real good at staying with the speed and being able to also do forechecking. And it seemed like that's kind of what the plan they were having on this one. And you see coming out of, I've seen and you're in Canada there, Nolan, so I don't know. I've seen all over Twitter or X that Edmonton's ready to implode. There's big issues in the locker room right now. So they're not.
They're their coach, right?
Yeah, they fired him before, and they hired him before they even came to Tampa. They hired McDavid's, I don't know, high school coach or D1 coach or something. His junior coach to be the new. And then they got all new assistant coaches, well-named assistant coaches on the bench and everything. And it just hasn't been doing well. And now they're saying that there's issues inside the locker room with the players. So it's not going good. Edmonton, I think, is having a lot more issues, and I think Tampa caught them at the right time and just added fuel to the fire once they were able to shut down those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you're playing against the Oilers, as long as you can shut down those 2 guys, and they, at the beginning of the game, I believe they were playing on different lines. By the end of the game, they were back on the same line again together. So Oilers obviously trying to work through some issues. They're 5-10-1 right now. And, just with that top level talent that they have on that team, it just doesn't make much sense.
Evander Kane.
Yeah, Evander Kane was probably offensively their best player. He had 6 shots, so he was at least kind of getting pucks on net. The Draisaitl and McDavid really, I think they had 6 shots together combined. So a heck of a job there by the defense. Somehow we let Evan Bouchard score a goal. Derek Ryan scored 2 goals, but at the end of the day, it was a 6-4 Bolts win in that game. And then who else scored for us that game? It was Glendening scored, and Tanner Jeannot scored in that game. And Tanner Jeannot also scored last night. So I was telling Carly, who could probably care less when I tell her this, but I was like, if we can get Tanner Jeannot going, getting up to 20 goals a season, we're gonna be on something with this young whippersnapper punching
and
people.
He had a great screen when Watson scored too. In last night's game, if you look at the replay of that Watson goal, like Jeannot totally clears out in front of it. So Watson had a clear look at that corner that he ended up burying that puck into.
Yeah, that was a heck of a shot by
Caught me
Austin
off guard.
Watson.
I didn't expect that out of him at all.
I know he sniped that one, and the goalie had a pretty clear look. He was trying to look around Jeannot there, but he should have seen it by the time it was shot. But he ripped that one. What else I want to mention? We brought up Cole
Okay.
Kopke.
Cole Kopke.
We brought him up, and guess what? He was sporting.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he freeze?
I can still see you.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know what Shooter was going to say he was sporting, but he did.
I think he was talking about he was wearing the net guard.
Oh, the net guard. Yes, he did become the first Tampa Bay Lightning player to wear a net guard in a game. And
I think everybody's going to have them eventually. They'll mandate it in like the visors sooner or later.
we talked about that. We talked about that from in one of the other shows. Do you think that will become mandatory or no?
I think eventually, like the junior ranks will probably put it in, and the the high level programs in the States will put it in. Just like everybody eventually had to wear a visor, and they'll grandfather it. They'll say, okay, if you're entering the league this year, you got to wear it. Eventually, just like the helmets, and a lot of players won't want to, right? It's
Right.
It'll be like just like it was. There will still be a couple of guys floating around in the mid '90s that weren't wearing helmets. But eventually they retire. Sooner or later, everybody's got a helmet. Sooner or later, everybody's got a visor.
And Shooter says that his internet went out.
How many players are left in the league with no visor? I think maybe it's just Ryan Reeves. I don't know if anybody else is out there without one.
No, I thought
List anyway.
I thought at the beginning of the season there was only, I think, 3, but now I don't think so. I know, now they were supposed to wear them in warm-ups, and I know Bedard and the other draft pick that got with Chicago. Bogo doesn't wear one, maroon. So there's 3. But I know at the beginning of the season that Bedard and the other rookie both came out on their rookie lap, and they didn't wear their helmets, and they ended up getting fined for not doing that.
Right.
So where he guessed that you were going to be talking about the net guard there, Shooter.
I left you with a real cliffhanger.
Yes, you sure did.
my internet just decided to crap out for a good 2 minutes, but we're back now.
He came out sporting, and then you disappeared, and I went, well, I don't know what he was about to say. And then Nolan's like, oh, the net guard. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. He did. And when they interviewed him, they asked him if he could feel it, and he said no. He said he totally doesn't even realize it's on during the game.
It's got to be uncomfortable, at least at first. I'm sure you get used to it, like wearing any type of equipment. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna report back. I'm gonna wear one. My buddy's got extra ones because the kids pretty much are required to wear them. So I'm gonna try to fit into a child's one size, but we'll see if that works. I'm gonna try one out, and I'll give you my review next week, Thomas Cooley. How about that?
Okay.
We'll see what the deal is with these, because yeah, I mean, like we talked about when that accident happened, I've thought about that. You could get seriously injured by somebody's skate. It just doesn't really happen. So yeah, I'll try it out, and kudos for Cole and being the first Lightning player to wear one. All right, so Edmonton, Cooch, 2 goals, continues his absolute tear this year, on pace to maybe win that Hart Trophy again. McDavid's not in the picture right now, so he's got a good chance to do it. Mentioned Jeannot scored. That was a good sign. So a big win, but again, kind of a win that we expect, knowing that the team that we were playing isn't exactly on a hot streak. Now, last night, the Boston Bruins came to town, The Bruins have only lost 2 games in regulation, only lost 1 game before last night in overtime, and we slayed the beast last night.
It was their dad's trip.
It's always
and
dads.
and we haven't won. And we haven't won in overtime. We haven't even touched the puck in overtime. So last night's game, if people were not on the edge of their seat last night, and then ultimately the win coming off of that, what we talked about, the new lightning rule that they're discussing about happening in the NHL next season, where you can't do the back pass and backtrack back into your own end once you pass the blue line. And what does Hedman do? He backtracks into the blue line to the other end, and Hagel jumps on the ice and he catches him for that win.
Yeah, what a pass by Hedman. I don't know if there's any player that can make those like across long passes with the accuracy that he does. And kudos for Hagel, who just jumped off the bench to be able to receive that pass in between 2 defenders like he did and have the composure to actually finish the job and score, right? So another huge goal by Hagel. Like, am I going to have to buy a Hagel jersey? I think I'm going to have to buy a Hagel jersey now. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be here for the next, 7 years, right?
Yeah.
8. So Hagel continues his hot streak. And then Stamkos, 4 seconds left to tie it. What a game last night. And then,
how many times have we seen that from Stammer, though, on that empty net, the pull the extra attacker, and Stammer get it with just a few seconds to go. I think I can remember at least 4 off the top of my head in the last couple of years where it's been those last, I want to say we did it in 2 seconds, like 2 years ago. Or 0.2 of a second, I think, was left, where they had to review and make sure it went in when he scored it. And that's just, and everybody complains about Coop emptying that net, especially too early. Of course, this wasn't too early because there was only 4 seconds left in the game. But good job, Cooch, catching him right there and getting it to him. And Cooch was not, everybody thought Cooch was injured. He didn't play the last 9 minutes of the second period. Come out in the third period, and then that's how he ended the game.
Well, the thing that's not going to be seen on the stat sheet with that game-tying goal was Hedman keeping that puck in with his body, and he didn't get an assist on that because I think it was Cooch and somebody else that got the assist, but Hedman deserved an assist on that. If you are ever going to give out like a voluntary assist on a goal, man, he deserved one for keeping that one in. We were actually nervous because we were watching it before my game, and we were nervous like, oh, no, they're offsides. They're offsides. Even if they score, like they're going to call it back. But sure enough, they score. And, you saw the replay. It was clear as day. It was onside, and you didn't even get the challenge from Boston. And we were kind of talking about that too. Like, does Boston challenge that? And now it's like, no, because if you lose that challenge, then you're shorthanded for overtime.
Yep.
So, those new rules really come into play, because if you didn't have that penalty for losing the challenge, they're challenging that all day. Why not? Why would you not? It's like baseball. Baseball, like they have all these challenges, but by the end of the game, they're just challenging whatever they can to use their challenges, and there's no penalty really if you miss on it. So huge win for the Bolts, 5-4. They did a couple things in this game. They really exposed Boston defensively. Like, Boston's goalies have been, both goalies, the tandem. Swayman was awesome in this game despite giving up 5 goals. But their goalie tandem's so good. And a lot of that goes back to their defense, right? Their defense usually plays so good. And what did we put up 40-plus shots on them last night? So being able to kind of take it to the best team in the league like that, and then getting over that overtime hump of just winning the face-off. First of all, we actually had the possession this time around, but yeah, I'm sure the crowd went wild. But I think the team to get that monkey off their back and win that overtime game is going to be huge. Like, I can't wait for the next overtime game because I don't think they're going to lose.
No, I know.
One thing I wanted to point out about the overtime goal is that it's probably lucky that it was Hagel that took that pass, because he is one of the few shoot first guys on that team.
Mhm.
Constantly. And it's fantastic when it works because we've got some fantastic skilled guys. But there's such a pass first mentality with those forwards. But Hagel's a breakaway guy. You know, the penalty shot goal the other was it a week ago? When was that in Chicago?
No, it's like 2 weeks ago because it was a home game. It was a home game because I think I was were you and me together, Shooter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, because I saw him. He took the pass, and I saw him breaking in with Asimont, and I just thought, oh my God, he's going to pass it. But no, he's not that guy. Like he wants to take that shot, and that's fantastic. So we need that more sometimes.
Yeah, and you
Cooch
saw
has been doing that more this year. We've seen Cooch, who's been the pass king and assist leader. He's been, well, I think not only by choice, because we saw it twice in the Edmonton game where he went to go pass it and the puck bounced back to him and ends up scoring. So I think sometimes he overthinks it, but he does get the goaltender to lean towards the other way when he's going for that pass. I know going into the game yesterday, one of my friends, Michelle, she had messaged me and she said she's dreading this game. I said, I think we have some confidence and we ride on that to victory tonight. And she's like, from your mouth to God's ears. And I really think those 2 wins in Chicago and that win in against Edmonton really got them that win last night and got them over that hump, especially after that grueling high-scoring game with Edmonton. I think they needed that before this big high-scoring game with Boston. I think had they lost any of those previous 2, that they could have given up in this Boston game early on. And so, and I don't know if, you know, the whole Lucic stories coming out in Boston right now, could that be a little disruption in the locker room? Because I know they are getting asked about that, especially he went to court today, his first appearance today, and a lot of the news came out yesterday that he was choking his wife or whatever because he thought she hit his cell phone. So I know, and I saw video of a mini fist fight going up in I think 110 yesterday between a Boston fan and a Tampa fan, because those are always ugly games for us.
Oh yes, the Boston fans do not rest. And as I tweeted earlier today, you will see several of those Boston fans in Lightning jerseys tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All right, so Nolan mentioned Mikey Asimont, and you mentioned Kucherov, who, by the way, Kucherov led the team with 7 shots on goal. He didn't score a goal last night. He did have an assist. Right behind him was Mikey with 6 shots. Mikey was all over the place again last night, and really, I thought it was that third line. And that's the question. Is this going to be the third line this year? Will this line actually stick with Cooper? You got Asimont, Mott, and Jeannot was that third line yesterday, and they seemed like one of the best lines on the ice. It's tough to compare them with, you know, Point and Cooch and whoever the heck they're playing with, but that third line, which has been so important when the Lightning are winning these Stanley Cups, do we finally have a solid third line?
Well, you see here Elizabeth Lucifer, the Isamont, Jeannot, and Mott is becoming a pain in the ass line, and we've always needed to have one of those to be able to win in the playoffs and in a Stanley Cup. We saw it with the Yanni Gord, the Coleman, and the Gaudreau line, and now you're finally seeing maybe these lines starting to take shape. And I think we'll keep almost like it is now. You always know Coop likes to play Yahtzee and shuffle them around every once in a while, but I think that's going to be your consistent line there.
Yeah, it looks like
they were fantastic.
we never know with Cooper what's going to change. Well, plus you got people kind of coming in and out of the lineup with this team and injuries and whatnot. So yeah, definitely something to take a look at tomorrow night with the Jets. Thomas Schooley, do we have any update on Andrei Vasilevsky? It's been very quiet on that front. Does that mean he's just going to make a surprise appearance tomorrow, or
no? They said it. Coop said it would not be before Thanksgiving. So
he's ready to play. The coaches aren't letting him play yet.
I know he was yesterday was a come if you want to the arena for morning skate, and he was out there. So him and Johansson were both out there on the ice yesterday morning. So it looks like we're getting closer and closer to his return. But Coop did say he would not be on this 3-game homestand. I
know defense is the problem, but you gotta think that like Vasi gets in there and it's one less goal a game that the other team's gonna score, right? He's gonna snag at least one. Right?
I feel like good. Johansson's been great. Tompkins has been good when he's been called upon, but I feel the same way. Like Vasilevsky's out of this world when he wasn't amazing last year. He had some bumps, but God, he'd be an upgrade over the current tandem. And that's with full respect to the current tandem. They've done really well, but
yeah,
shave off a goal here or there, and that makes wins.
Yeah, and despite the injury, which hopefully isn't anything that lingers, you've got the most fresh Vasi we've ever had since he was a rookie, right? Like he's going to be ready to go, and the cool part is like now we have a solid backup that we can actually throw in there. I know people loved Elliott, but he wasn't really a solid backup last year. He gave up a lot of goals in some of those games. So
and I know you're right. Says he comes back to that Colorado game, and the reason why he points to that, it is back-to-back games. So are we going to do Tompkins or is Vasi? Does he go against Colorado or Arizona? I think I'd more put him, if he is ready to return, the Arizona game rather than the Colorado game. I'd put Johansson out there for that Colorado game and then Vasi in for Arizona.
We'll see. We'll find out soon. I'm excited for Vasi's return. And if you watch the ESPN Plus broadcast, that was the Chicago game last week. They had Vasi in an interview at intermission. I was like, no way. Are they really going to interview Vasi? Like he never gets interviewed. And you know who else we heard from? They had Cooch up there on the podium after the Saturday night game, right?
Oh, that was the best interview I've ever seen. It's the best interview I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We should have pulled some clips of that because most Cooch interviews are gold.
If they asked him 10 questions, he said, I don't know, for 7 of them.
Yeah. I don't know. What'd you do differently tonight than, during the losing streak? I don't know. We did the same thing.
Nothing.
You can tell he doesn't really want to do these media interviews. But hey, I like when they get Vasi out there. I like when they get Cooch out there. Sergachev seems like he's the most comfortable one in front of the camera. Like they put him out there way more than they put the other Russian guys out there.
He's the one that knows English the most too, growing up in Canada.
Yeah, he's really solid with his English. But I think Vasi, I think they both are. All of them are pretty good. They probably just don't want to talk to the media that much, and I don't blame them for that.
I think that's just Cooch's personality.
I wonder if Sergachev's going to answer many of Jay Retcher's questions at future press conferences.
Yeah, after that kind of shellacking Retcher gave him, it'll be interesting.
He's a radio guy. He's got to say stuff like that. We'll have Jay on to defend himself here. I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to jump on next week. All right, so 3-game winning streak. We've got one more game here at home. The Jets tomorrow night, 7:00.
Both of us will be in the building.
And then the Black Friday game against the Hurricanes. That one is up in Raleigh. It's an 8:00 start time. I believe I'm going to go to hang out with the Sticks of Fire. So Sticks of Fire have a watch party that's going to be over at Walk-Ons, I believe, in Midtown. I think we posted it earlier, so go double check that. But
that is an 8:00 game, not a 7:00 game. That is an 8:00 game.
The watch party starts at 7, though. So come hang out with the Sticks of Fire crew and yell and scream at the TVs at Walk-Ons and have some good food. And if you go, come say hi to me because I should be there. And then we've got Monday and Tuesday night, as you mentioned, the back-to-back Do We See Vassy maybe in Colorado. A Monday night, also 9:00 game. And then Tuesday, we've got a 9:00 game against the Coyotes. I'm kind of pushing Thomas Schooley for another pregame show on Tuesday night. I don't know how you feel about that.
That's fine with me.
I kind of like these pregame shows.
It was successful, and going against before Arizona, that ain't so bad either. That could be another 2-0 of these pre-shows.
Right, we're gonna start doing them every week if we keep winning. Coyotes. I wanted to go to that game. I'm dying to go to that little college stadium that they're playing in, just because I think it'd be cool to just be surrounded by.
Nigel said it's one of the coolest atmospheres. When I asked him before we went to Dallas last year, I asked him where would he recommend going, and his 3 were Dallas, Colorado, and Arizona's little thing right now.
I just went out to Arizona. That's why I will not be there next week. So I hope they play one more season there. I'll try to go next season if they're playing there. All right. So that's the schedule for next week. We'll keep you posted. We're probably going to do the pregame show Tuesday versus the Coyotes from 8 to 9. We'll do our predictions. And the rest of this show, by the way, if you can, hit that like button, hit the share button. If you don't subscribe to us, subscribe. Make sure to jump on the X and follow Nolan at Review Lightning. If you love Lightning, you're going to love that, his tweets and his page there. But what we're going to do is something that we haven't really done. We've talked a little bit about, the teams that we've been playing, a little bit of NHL news, but we're going to take a look at the standings around the NHL. This is one of the first benchmarks of the season, Thanksgiving week, to really kind of see where teams are at. So
before we do that, I want to know your guys's, and Nolan, since you've been, all the old players, the Lightning announce their 2 Hall of Fame, new Hall of Fame inductees, being the captain, Dave Andreychuk, and then the Brad Richards. What do you think about their 2 selections there?
They got it right. Like, who else could you put over those 2 guys? I remember in 2018, the Tampa Bay Times did their Mount Rushmore, and that was just before Stamkos and Kucherov and Vasilevsky and Edmund kind of hit their championship run. And they had Brian Bradley in instead of Andreychuk, because Brian had such a hot streak for so many years at the beginning, and Andreychuk had only been there for a few years as a player. But even so, choosing Andreychuk over Bradley, I think, is a great call. Like, he's so important for that championship. I think they got it right. You can always
the one person I would have set a case for was Jay Feaster. I really think he deserves to be on that wall. I'm a huge Feaster supporter. He's back with the team now. He's great with the community involvement, and he's just been an all-around great guy.
I think his time will come.
Yeah,
he's not like the sexy pick for the second year of the.
I can tell you, for the fans down here, not that Andreychuk wasn't important. I think a lot of the fans down here, we're Andreychuk'd out. Meaning they throw him in for everything that you can imagine. Here's
isn't that his job though? Isn't he like community relations?
I mean, literally, it's a Brian Bradley or an Andreychuk. You get them and then if you go on the cruise, you get both of them.
So who's next year? Pick your 2 for next year. Bradley and Habibulin.
Yeah, well, they have this thing with Hobby, and it's going to be interesting when we do the this reunion that they're going to do, the alumni weekend, which is, do you have the dates there, Shooter? I want to say it's May something. Anybody in the comments know it?
May I don't know what you're talking about. May's like after the season.
Or not May, sorry. March, when they do the alumni weekend, when these two are going to be put on the wall. It's going to be interesting because it actually is the 20-year anniversary from the first Stanley Cup. Well, yeah, 20-year anniversary from the first Stanley Cup, 2003, 2004 season, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a love fest for that cup with Anderchuk and
March 8th and 9th, Debbie said. So it'll be, we haven't seen Javi really here. There's been some kind of rift between them ever since he left us. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come back here that weekend, and if there's going to be some kind of love fest going on between them two.
Oh, it's just like the WWE, though.
Yeah.
You guys always come back if you put them in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I can tell you, the last year's event was the first. And I don't know if they'll ever duplicate that, because literally they had party bus after party bus of the players drunk, the ex-players drunk as can be, walking the blue carpet and just coming in and signing. And it was a great day. And of course, you had Marty St. Louis, Vinny LeCavier, and then Phil Esposito as your first inductees. So, and you see we have people over here, Bradley and Cabina, Feaster, Dudley. So yeah, it's a lot of different things over here.
It gives us a lot to talk about now each season, because you can really kind of throw those nominations up in the air and really pick any of them. I thought, like, we went through the whole list of nominations a couple weeks ago when they put them out, and remember there was that one guy like, who is this guy? He was a freaking co-founder of the team. I forget his name. But yeah, we look it up. He's a co-founder of the team. So yeah, there's plenty of people that they can put on that Hall of Fame. They're gonna have to eventually make them a lot smaller, the little like the big like emblems or whatever pictures they have, because they don't have that much room on that wall. And they've got a lot of players that deserve to go up there. So that'll be an exciting weekend, exciting game here. Brad Richards was definitely one of my favorite players when he was here. And I do think Dave Anderchuk really, really helped this team make it over the hump, being the captain and, just being the only guy that really had experience in that locker room. I know we brought in Sidor, which was a huge pickup for, I'm right. That was a huge Feaster move there to pick up Sidor at that trade deadline. I can't believe we're still talking about trade deadlines 20 years ago. But here we are. But yeah, that'll be an exciting weekend. So let's take a look at the standings here. We're not going to go like a deep dive into like, every single team here or anything. We're going to wrap it up in the next 10-15 minutes, but I do want you to hang out for a little bit, even if you don't really care about the other teams. We'll give you a quick update on what's going around the league, and then we're going to wrap up the show with a little AI stories. AI made a little Thanksgiving story about Thomas Cooley, myself, and the Lightning. So you got to hold on for this AI story, because I think it's great. All right, so let me share my screen. I'm just going to pull up the standings. We're just going to take a look at what's going on around the league. If I know not all Bolts fans are glued to kind of the standings and what's going on, but here is your Eastern Conference, the Atlantic Division, the Bruins, who we just beat, at the top of this. And they're also at the top of the league. And you've got them at 29 points. The Panthers, who started really slow and have gotten healthier throughout the season, are back on a tear right now. So they're playing good. The Maple Leafs are on a 4-game winning streak right now. So they are tied with us, but they have a couple games to make up. And then we're sitting there at 4th. So kind of what we expected from this division at the beginning of the season, right?
I don't know. Is there, Nolan, is there something there that surprises you?
Not really. The mix behind us is the group that everybody talked about as the hot teams that are coming up. Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa.
And see, and that's where I'm shocked. I really thought Detroit would be actually above us. I thought Florida would be under us, and I thought Detroit would be up there. Detroit, I really thought was the one who really signed good in this offseason and really seemed to be building momentum for a great year. So, I mean, they're not too far behind us, but I really thought Florida would be further down and Detroit would be up there.
I still feel like there's a pretty straight line as far as just the difference in talent in the top of this division versus the bottom of the division.
Yeah.
So until some of these young guys start to put it together, and the Red Wings, you're right. I think they're the ones that are head and shoulders above the rest. I know the Senators made some good moves, and they're on a winning streak right now as well. Sabres, it seems like Tage Thompson's going to be out for a while. I think that's their best player, so I'm not expecting much from them. But we'll see if any of these teams can start to turn it on. But until then, it's been these 4 teams at the top of this division.
Toronto's there on a 4-game winning streak there.
Yeah, we're on a 3-game winning streak.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's your Lightning division there, the Atlantic. And if we go over to the other Eastern Conference division, you've got the Rangers sitting pretty at the top. They've only lost 3 games and another one in overtime. And then shocking, Torts has got the Flyers in second place right now. And then as you can see, Caps, Hurricanes, not off to a wonderful start for them. And that's we'll see them Friday. The Penguins, who everyone thought was going to be, they got Erik Karlsson. This is their last run. They're going to be on fire this season. They're Stanley Cup hopefuls. Not looking so good so far. And you can say the same thing about the Devils. Now, the Devils have had injuries, but a lot of those guys have come back in the last couple weeks. Like Hughes is back. They got back one of their defenders. So I do expect the Devils to heat up again. And then Islanders and Jackets. I'm just convinced that Columbus is where good hockey players go to die at this point. I don't know if you heard
that's
this.
Karma. That's karma for hiring Babcock.
that makes total sense. But they scratched what's his name the other night?
Laine.
Yeah, just healthy scratch.
He is on a tear now. He's about ready to implode that team inside out. So yeah, that didn't look good on that team.
Yeah, they are awful. So if we take a look at the wild card,
was there anybody there? Wait, was there anybody in the standings there that shocked either of you guys?
I was surprised by the Devils, but their goaltending is terrible. So
yeah, the Devils really need to make a move for some goaltending. They were able to kind of get away with it last year, but I mean, if they're going to be a team that goes deep into the playoffs and wants to win the Stanley Cup, they've got to do something about goaltending.
Same thing Roscoe said here. I'm kind of surprised Washington was up that high, actually. I thought they would be at the bottom of that near Columbus.
It's a good call out too. Yeah, they're on a 4-game.
They have a lot of games in hand too.
And then
they've only played 15 games and they're that high up. That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're in good shape. And who hasn't been on a goal scoring tear like he's been on his entire career? It was Ovechkin. He's been kind of quiet this season. I still think the Flyers are my biggest surprise. I know they've got a couple extra games in hand, but they're on a 5-game winning streak. So I guess if we went back 2 weeks, they're probably at the bottom of this list. I think our division's so much more talented than the Metropolitan right now. And the other thing to kind of look at here is that differential. So this usually aligns pretty closely with where these teams are in the standings. You get the Rangers with a plus 15, and going back to Pittsburgh, they're scoring goals. They're scoring more goals than they're letting in. So something's got to give there. I based on that, I bet they're going to climb up the standings throughout the season. That's a true veteran team right there that knows that they're probably going to be broken up after the season if they don't make some noise. So if we go to the wild card, you've got the top 3 teams in, and your wild card is where we're sitting right now with the Hurricanes right behind us with 2 points. 2 points behind us, but we've played 19 games. They played 17, so we're actually a little bit ahead on the schedule than everyone else. So let's go over to the West. I stay up late, and I tend to watch a lot of these Western Conference games. Dallas Stars have been a very good team this season. Colorado Avalanche have been a very good team this season. Winnipeg Jets, we're going to see tomorrow night at Amalie. By the way, if anyone's ever seen the Winnipeg Jets the last couple years, they only come down to town once a year. It's always a freaking awesome game. It's always high scoring. There's always a fight. There's always hits. So if you don't have tickets tomorrow, we have a SeatGeek code that you can use, WTT Pod, to get your tickets for Lightning games or really whatever you want. If there's, want to go to the Bucks game this weekend, I don't even know if they're here, but if you want to go to a Bucks game, you can use our code too. But yeah, come join us tomorrow night and watch the Jets. But what do you guys think of the Central so far? Do you follow any of these teams? Any surprises that you see here? And as you can see with the differential on this one, kind of lines up perfectly like it's supposed to.
And you can't go on without talking about the Jets being here tomorrow night. Then the guys that go around with those helmets either. They are at every single one of the Jets games. And you always see tons of pictures of Lightning fans taking pictures with them. And then there's usually the guys in the Winnipeg Jets jackets. So you usually will see them down in the 100s. But my surprise here is Dallas. That was the reason why Coach Bonus left there. It was really because he didn't think they were going to do crap this year. He went running for Winnipeg, and here Dallas is in first place. And I didn't think Colorado was going to sustain either. I thought Nashville with what's his face taking over as GM, Trotz, I thought that they would be higher up there.
Yeah, Nashville's a bit of a surprise that they're not a little bit better to start off the season. And I think a lot of Minnesota fans would say the Wild are off to an awful start.
Yeah, they're ready to get rid of Flower.
Yeah, they need goaltending too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're ready to make some moves, it seems like, because they were not expecting to be where they're at this point of the season. And then look at those little Arizona Coyotes there. Just floating right at 500, really good young team. So they're going to be fun to watch. Hopefully not next week, though, on Tuesday night when we play them. All right, so that's your Central Division. Dallas Stars in the driver's seat. And then Pacific, no surprise here, the Vegas Golden Knights back at the top. I've seen several of their games this season. They're still really good. The Canucks, though, have been kind of a surprise this season. Look at their differential. They've scored 78 goals, and they've only given up 46. That's got to be best in the league. And then you got the Kings.
Sustainable.
Go ahead. It's a Canadian team. You must know something about the Canucks.
Well, is it sustainable? Like
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of people are, I don't know. The advanced stat guys are saying the underlying numbers, they're playing above their underlying numbers. There's got to be some regression. They'll probably do fine, but this isn't a 7-11 points percentage team. But standings don't lie, right?
Here they are. Yeah,
They just ask how many.
They're not a 7-11 percentage points team until they end up being one, and they are right now. But yeah,
Look at them
right
at
now.
home.
So
Look at them at home. Them in Vegas both 8-1-1 and 7-1-1. And so they look like they're the great home teams there. It's on the road where they're losing it there.
and look at the LA Kings in third place, 8-0 on the road. If you have not seen the LA Kings play, I would go watch the Kings play. They're a fun team to watch too.
They're a fun team to watch, but they're so old. I mean, Kopitar is still there.
Good.
You just have all these players that have been with Kings forever and a day. And I just think what they did to their goalie last year, I really wanted to see them do crappy. And Seattle just announced that they have recalled their first ever pick, Chris Dreiger, from goalie, because Grubauer is injured and will be out in undisclosed amount of time. So
Look at their differential. So based on this, if you buy into the whole differential thing, the Kraken should be at the bottom, towards the bottom of this list. So we'll see if the Kraken can maintain their success that they fell into last year. The Ducks, another young, fun team to watch. It's always fun to tune in to see number 17 on the Ducks play, but they're sitting at 500. The Flames still can't put it together. The Oilers, we talked about them already, and then the Sharks, by far the worst team in hockey. But at least
look at that differential.
Yeah, at least they started to score a couple more. I mean, I think that was the last Lightning game I went to was when the Sharks were in town and we just spanked them. That was probably the worst team I've ever seen in person playing in the NHL. Like, they just didn't look like an NHL team out there. We totally dominated them that game. So,
guys, sorry, this is just one of those stats that I love, but the Sharks are doing the expansion Sharks again. They're covering their own album. The expansion Sharks, the first couple of years, they were so terrible. Rob Zettler played there. He was a minus 50 in 92-93 for the Sharks. Minus 50.
That's crazy.
Please, Syracuse is the minus 19, and this place goes nuts, and they're ready to ship them back to Russia. Could you imagine a minus 50 on any one of our players?
No, not with this.
He'd have to delete his Instagram, I assure you.
Yeah.
So here's your wild card. Obviously, you got the top threes in each. So you got the Stars, Avs, Jets in. You got the Knights, Canucks, Kings in, and then you got the Blues, Kraken, Ducks, Coyotes, all kind of looking for a spot here. So this is what they say. Most likely, this is kind of how things are going to end up towards the end of the season.
The Blues ask you that teams though that they are kind of silent. And they just always, every year, just hang around there, just enough to make it into the playoffs. And for some reason, they don't get talked about a lot. And Bennington, the 1 year, he was like the talk of the town, but you don't even hear much about him anymore.
He's been playing pretty good in some of the games that I tuned into.
Yeah, but they fly so much under the radar. And I went to a St. Louis game a couple of years ago, and they're actually a good team and they get a good crowd out there. The city sucks. The arena sucks. Where the arena is sucks, but it was a good game.
Now, Nolan, I want to ask you, because you've been watching hockey for a while, what do you think of the wild card versus going just by conference like they used to? Because if we looked at just going by conference, we just take the top 8 teams, right? So we'd have the Rangers, Bruins, Rangers, Panthers, Maple Leafs, Lightning, Flyers, Capitals, Hurricanes. Do you feel like the wild card format that we use now gets the best teams in, or do you think we should go back to this conference stuff?
To be honest, I'm fine either way. I know this is a really wishy-washy answer, but I tend to just say we'll go with the system as it is. If they want to change it, they change it, and then we just go with the new thing. I'm used to the wild card. I thought the 1 through 8 system was the best reward for being the best team, because you should be able to just feast on the 8th seed. But this is okay. If the point was to get different matchups, does it work? I don't know. Does it feel like every year Toronto's playing Boston, or we're playing Toronto years after years? But on the other hand,
that's why I don't like it.
Through the years, we've ended up playing everybody. So the only team we haven't played in the Eastern Conference is Buffalo, because they never make the playoffs. Sorry, Buffalo fans.
Someday, Buffalo.
You're not
I
listening.
don't know. I kind of like the randomness of that you got when you had the 1 through 8. You know, I feel like every year it's going to be that first round, Boston, Panthers, or Leafs, like it's been the last 2 years. So
yeah, I like the conference. I rather the conference than, because I do like it's almost like the NCAA, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7. I like that things, and I like that it can be different matchups every year. And this several years back and forth with Toronto, as much as I hate Toronto, and I'd love to see some of those old matchups that we used to have in the playoffs.
Well, if you want to see us play more teams, all you have to do is wait for the second and third round.
Yeah, but I rather face a Washington in a first round, and knock them out, and just be happy that we hit a Washington, or I just don't want to stay within our guys in the first round.
I think the NHL is not going to change it, though. I think they like it. Kind of builds on these rivalries, right? These your in-division rivalries, where it's kind of funny with the Lightning, because if you ask who the Lightning's biggest rival is, you get different answers from everyone, right? You'll get a lot of people these days that'll say Toronto, but if you ask people in Toronto, their first answer is usually not the Lightning.
Now, there's recency bias. There's always recency bias, right? Who's been beating us in the playoffs lately? For a long time in Toronto, it was always Boston, because Boston was always killing the Leafs in the playoffs. Now it is Tampa. People talk about Tampa here. That's a measuring stick for the Leafs.
They did a video thing with the Maple Leafs, I think right at the beginning of the season, and they asked the players this question, and it was still all over the map. Like, all players had different answers. A couple said the Lightning, definitely a bunch of Bostons, but I think this helps kind of solidify those in-division rivals. With the Lightning, obviously Toronto a lot lately, just because they've had such great matchups and some playoff history. But to me, it's still Florida. To me, it's Tampa and Florida, and that's the rivalry. That's the Sunshine Series rivalry right there. And those games are always brutal too. There's always a lot of hitting, and some Lightning fans will say Boston. So we'll see if those expand as we go through the years and continue to have more playoff series with these teams. All right. Well, any other comments you guys want to make about the NHL before I go into artificial intelligence making stories about us?
No.
The floor is yours.
Okay. So as you folks know, if you follow me, occasionally I go down the wormhole of AI. Occasionally, and only because I stay there for hours when I do. And today, a little bit slow at work, and had on my other monitor a little chat GPT going, and put in a prompt to, give me a scenario, give me a story about the hosts of We the Thunder going to the Tampa Bay Lightning's Thanksgiving. And within not even 30 seconds, within 5 seconds, AI spits out a full story of me and Thomas going to Steven Stamkos' house for Thanksgiving dinner. So I'm going to read it real quick, and then we'll get the heck out of here. All right. Thomas and Shooter, hosts of We the Thunder, couldn't believe their luck when they received a mysterious invitation to Steven Stamkos' house for Thanksgiving. The invitation was adorned with lightning bolts and had a note that read, "Bring your appetite and your best lightning puns." Excitement tingled in the air. Thomas and Shooter arrived at Stamkos' mansion, where they were greeted by a towering inflatable Stanley Cup on the front lawn. Who knew that Stamkos had an inflatable Stanley Cup on his front lawn?
Oh, I know.
As they entered, they were met with the savory aroma of a Thanksgiving feast, and the sound of hockey chatter filled the air. Stamkos welcomed them sporting an apron that read, "Captain of the Kitchen." I like that AI. The host noticed that other Lightning players mingling, including Victor Hedman, who was trying to teach Braden Point how to carve a turkey without accidentally breaking it into two. In the living room, they found Nikita Kucherov passionately arguing with Andrei Vasilevsky about the proper way to cook borscht. Is that like Russian Thanksgiving?
Borscht. It's like beet soup.
So it must be
Russian
some sort of
beet
Russian
soup.
dish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thomas leaned over to Shooter and whispered, "Looks like we've stumbled into the Bolts Culinary Championship." Nikita Kucherov brought his legendary wit and a cooler full of Russian spirits, leaving everyone in stitches. Kucherov said, "In Russian, we celebrate Thanksgiving every day. It's called vodka and laughter." The dinner table was a spectacle with plates featuring lightning bolt-shaped turkey and mashed potatoes. Not sure how you do that, but I'm going to try that one on Thursday. Thomas raised his glass for a toast to Lightning Thanksgiving, where we're thankful for goals, good company, and not having to face Vasilevsky in a penalty shot. Nice toast there, Thomas. Laughter erupted as the guests shared their most memorable hockey moments. At one point, a food fight broke out, and Stamkos quipped, "This is the only time we're allowed to shoot and score off the ice." The highlight of the evening was when retired Lightning legend Marty St. Louis showed. He declared, "Back in my time, we didn't have fancy podcasts. We just yelled at each other in the locker room." As the night wound down, Stamkos handed out personalized Lightning jerseys to each guest. Very nice, Stamkos. With witty nicknames like Turkey Sniper for Thomas. That's going to be Thomas's new Twitter handle. And then mine is Mashed Potato Magician. As Thomas and Shooter left, they couldn't stop laughing about the unforgettable lightning-filled Thanksgiving. Little did they know the next We the Thunder episode would feature a play-by-play of the most epic turkey hockey game ever played in Stamkos' backyard. It was a Thanksgiving that the Lightning fans would remember for years to come. A feast of laughter and camaraderie and a touch of puckish humor. Nolan, after the show, will explain what Thanksgiving is to you. Just kidding.
You know, it's funny is because this you had sent me these. There was two different ones, and you had sent me them beforehand. And when I was reading it, it made me think of the 2020 Stanley Cup season when we won the Stanley Cup and COVID was going on, and I got invited secretly to one of the trainers' houses. When it was their day with the cup. And so it was, they weren't really allowed to say when the cup was coming. It was just, we're having a friend over. Do you guys want to come and visit the friend? And you kind of figured through the crypto, it was Stanley Cup. And I got invited because of one of my friends knew the trainer's wife. And it was Christmas time. So here it is, you know, you're going to a player's house at Thanksgiving time. Here I am at a trainer's house at Christmas time. And here's all the associate coaches coming in, all the other trainers coming in and he's got this big old feast out on his back around his pool. And in the corner, there's the Stanley Cup. And then over in this corner is Hetty's trophy and everything else, and you just go around and start taking pictures with them and eat as much as you want. So it brought back some memories of that 2020 Stanley Cup.
Wonderful. Well, Nolan, thanks for jumping on to talk a bit about some hockey with us. Folks, make sure you go follow Nolan. His account is really a Lightning fan's dream. At Review Lightning on X. Got anything else to say to the fine people of pretty much just Tampa Bay? We don't go very far outside that. That's not true, right?
Do I? Yes, I do. My life is sad and lonely. Being a Lightning fan gives me a feeling of community all the time. And even through the summer, I was interacting with Lightning fans every day through Twitter. I won't call it X. I'm sorry. I'm just weird that way. That's what being a sports fan is all about. And I love it. I love this community. That's it.
Who's your favorite Lightning reporter on X?
Gabby, Chris, Eduardo from the Times. There's such a huge number. But I don't just follow the reporters. Like there's so many very, very active fans that seem to get news through constantly. It's like I said, it feels like a community that I just open it up and there's a big group of friends and I can just talk to anybody about whatever the team is doing, and it's Just all day friend fest. I love it.
Yeah, I could give you like 20 people to follow on Twitter if you're not following them. That anytime you want to talk Bolts hockey, they're all about it, down to their superstitions to what they think needs to be fixed or the highlights of the season. And that's the good thing about Lightning Twitter, and the bad thing about Lightning Twitter is when it's down, it's doom and gloom. When it's good, everybody will lift you up. So, and it's the same thing as the Facebook pages. And we try on this show, no matter how it's going, try to always say the better side of things. So thank you for coming on the show with us.
One of my favorite things in the world is being able to watch a game just here by myself and having Twitter open on my phone. I don't get to tweet during all of the games, like live tweet them, but like it's one of my favorite things to do. And having a Cigar City beer in one hand, have my phone in the other hand, having the Lightning game on the big screen, and then it's not like I'm watching by myself. It's like I'm watching with everyone else, because you'll tweet something out that I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to hit send on the same exact tweet. We're looking at the same exact stuff. And then there's just so many like funny, like Andrew Weiss always has a good something, video, picture, every game. There's so many other accounts like that. So it's actually really cool that we can all do that. So if anyone goes to the game tomorrow, find me out there, say hi. And I'll be at the beer garden probably in between periods. And then, like I said, I should be making an appearance with the folks at Sticks of Fire Friday night. There's a watch party. Serena's asking. There's a watch party with Sticks of Fire on this Friday night, Black Friday, the 8 o'clock game up in Carolina. And then we have our first one, I believe, is January 3rd or 4th. Trust me, we'll talk about it more before it gets here, but it's still another month plus away. So that will be at Cigar City on Spruce. All right. Well, it's been a good week of Bolts hockey, and we've got a bunch of games coming up. We will see you next Tuesday before the Coyotes game, 8 o'clock right here. Make sure you go follow at Review Lightning. Make sure you follow at Shooty Shoots, at We the Thunder Pod. Thomas Schooley's got 18 different accounts out there as well, so make sure you follow him. Until then, this has been We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it.